it's Annette and John from KW Singapore. Today we will be discussing a topic that is very near and dear to your heart. This is very important for you to know before you proceed with your next property move.
Exactly. Today we'll break down 3 major factors that can affect a valuation for your property, whether it's condo or HDB, with real-life examples.
Okay, so first up, location. Everybody emphasizes the importance of location, right? Because it can make or break your stay in the property. Okay, why we say that? Okay, example, a condo right next to the Redhill MRT will definitely always fetch a higher valuation than a condo that is 15 minutes walk away from Redhill MRT station.
Yep, same for HDB, right? Let's take Tampines for example. A 4-bedroom unit that is near MRT would probably, or most likely have a 40 to 50k valuation higher than a unit that is deeper inside the estate.
Correct. So apart from this, right, the facing also really does matter. For example, if your unit faces an expressway, you'll be surrounded by noise 24/7. It can be very disruptive to some people's lives, especially if they are light sleepers or they have like toddlers at home.
Yep, so an MRT can add value to your unit compared to your unit facing an exhaust fume that is coming out from a coffee shop, constantly having zhicha of chai tao kueh smell going to your balcony, into your flat, will obviously impact the value of your unit if you're looking to sell.
So the next factor that is very important to know is actually the property attributes itself. For example, low floor, high floor, pool facing, MRT facing, etc. So for example, right, we all know that a higher floor unit most likely will definitely fetch a higher price than a lower floor unit. That goes without saying.
Yep.
Okay, and the other thing that's very common is whether it faces the MRT tracks, it faces the swimming pool, or it has an unblocked sea view. Definitely, facing an unblocked sea view will command a higher premium than a unit facing the MRT tracks.
Likewise for HDB, the remaining lease is critical to the valuation, right? There's this thing that we all know is known as lease decay. Older HDB, say a 40-year-old HDB, would definitely get a lesser in valuation as compared to a 10-year-old HDB flat, right? And yes, Annette, so since you're talking about these attributes and everything, there's one thing that I want to know: renovation.
Yeah.
Does renovation affect the valuation of the unit?
Well, it really depends on how much you had spent on the reno, as well as the extent, and also when was the renovations last done.
Okay. So if let's say a unit that spends 50,000 versus a unit that spent 500,000 in renovation,
Yeah.
okay, is there a possibility whereby a 50,000 renovation will have a higher valuation than a 500,000 renovation unit?
So we're assuming both renovations were done around the same time
Yes.
as well, right? From the seller standpoint, you having done 500k worth of renovations, would you be okay being valued at the same valuation as the owner that did the 50k renovations?
I don't know, you tell me.
Right? So this is the point I'm getting to. So most sellers that we have met, right, will definitely feel like it's very unreasonable to value it the same way. Naturally, the 500k renovations seller would usually command a higher price. Why? Because the cost of building material is much higher there, and usually the building materials are of a more premium grade compared to the 50k renovations seller. So that's why this might be one of the factors that might drive the valuation up.
Right, okay, interesting. So what about you guys? Would you rather pay more for a top floor with unblocked view or a low floor that's maybe, facing trees or multi-story car park?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comment.
Okay. So lastly, we come to one of the most important factors, market conditions and transactional data. Okay, why this is important is because the banks, right, and HDB actually does use the most recent data to value your property. Because at every season, our market conditions are different. So it would be unfair to take data that would backdate too far back, because the conditions, let's say 3 years ago versus now, would be very different. Okay, so for example, in 2021, during the very hot HDB resale market, HDB resale valuations were climbing very fast, and having COV, which is cash over valuation, was very common then. So right now in this season, after the several rounds of cooling measures, the government has somewhat moderated the valuations to a stable level.
So, with having said like cooling measures, that means your value will be lower because value will be more conservative in terms of valuation. So that brings me to the next point. So imagine this, now you're looking to sell, right? But your neighbor who sold the house earlier than you sold at a lower price for whatever reason. So his or her transaction data will affect your valuation moving forward, because valuation is largely based on past transaction within the building or within the development.
To recap, valuations are actually shaped by three main factors: location, unique property attributes, and also the market conditions.
So that's why buyers and sellers need to stay grounded, right? Don't just focus on emotion or how much I spend on renovation. I want to make back my renovation money. I spend like 500,000. I want to put in 500,000 onto my selling price. We need to be more sensitive to valuation on especially like past transaction data, because only that way we can get a proper selling price for your unit.
So let us know your thoughts, and if this had gave you clarity, follow us for more Singapore property insights. Till next time.